to... Well, apologies for the pause there. Jake was due to start us off.
Has it not worked?
He seemed to get frozen in time. The good news is I'm back this week to make sure the ship runs a little bit tighter after a very busy week. Loads to get stuck into. Really exciting week of sport. Lads, you both well?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm still just trying to get my head around this because on my screen it's not showing that we're recording. So I think that my screen's just messed up. As long as it's all right on your side, that's all that matters to me, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some weird emoji on the screen because you're wearing a woolly hat inside, but that just must be.
I can see the recording sign as loud and clearly as your jacket on Sky Sports the other day. So why don't you tell us about that, Sam? I know the listeners are dying to hear about the jacket.
There's no need to go into any more details on the jacket other than to say I got a rather mixed reaction to my choice of fashion garment in order to try and dress a little bit younger, should we say. One of the accusations I get is I look very young, but I dress like a 50-year-old, 60-year-old man. And lo and behold, you try and do something a bit different and you get called out for it. But you live and die by the social media sword. But the good news is
people mock Lady Gaga when she wore that dress made of meat, and look at her now. So
yeah, I mean, maybe that's the next move for me. Right, good news is loads to get stuck into this week. On a more serious note, we have got cracking football. I'll be talking about the Dublin Racing Festival and a little bit of a nod to Cheltenham. Six Nation kicks off if you're a weirdo middle-class rugby fan like Sam Farley, who wants to touch on that. Jake, I'm sure, has got a few bits and pieces as well. Plus, we've got our best bets for the weekend. But we kick off with the Friday night football. We've got to get stuck into this nice and early. A West London derby, just seemingly about 3 weeks since we had last West London derby. Chelsea, short price, big spending Chelsea, short price to get the better of Fulham. They're near neighbours who are having a brilliant season in my book. Right. Very quickly, guys, let's just touch on Chelsea spending. Sam, it's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, ridiculous. I hadn't really fully taken it in until I saw some data yesterday that Chelsea have spent more than the other four leagues combined, which is, it's just the other four major leagues, obviously, being Germany, Spain, Italy, and France. That is just bonkers, and they promised to do it again. Since like this season alone, they've spent over £500 million now between two windows. And I'm getting to the point, I was even thinking the other day, maybe Super League is the best way and just get this done, because it is killing the game. The way Chelsea have spent this window is absolutely abhorrent, and I don't think it helps competitive balance.
But why is the Super League going to help that when you put 10 of the richest clubs together and let the rest of us all suffer and die?
That's a good point. And I am against the Super League, but like something like at the end of the day, you're not just killing the UK game with the way Chelsea are spending. Like you're killing everything. Like if teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona can't even compete, like what is going on? Like it's just absolutely absurd.
Jake, do you think this will last, though? Do you really think this American guy has got pockets deep enough? Obviously, we've seen these ridiculously long deals that UEFA are coming in and stopping, or FIFA are stopping, so they can't put players on 8.5-year deals. We saw your team obviously acquire some serious wealth and then spend an awful lot and then sort of rein that back in a little bit. You know, Liverpool have done their way of spending and doing things a bit differently. Man United at times have overspent. Do you think this will last, this new Chelsea saga and style of spending? Because at some point he's going to want to return on the money. He's not going to keep buying these players.
I think the thing that you touched on there, where these long contracts over 8 years and the way they're going through loopholes and things like that to get the deals done, that's the thing that doesn't make sense. I know that my club have been investigated for FFP in the past. If we're going to have FFP as it is in football, then it needs to be regulated and forced on these clubs in the right manner. I mean, Chelsea spending all this money in the space of 6 months is absolutely mental. And it's one of these things where, like I said, 8-year contracts for a lot of the players, it's a massive gamble. If it doesn't pay off, then what's going to happen? I mean, it was only, I reckon, in a pod last month, at the start of last month, we definitely discussed whether Graham Potter would still be in the job at Chelsea. So that's the other thing that's a bit mental. Is it a case of they're going to bring in a different manager, or is it just going to be business as usual? I mean, I'll get stuck into this game straight away, this Chelsea-Fulham game on Friday night, because, again, they only played each other last month. And I remember in the build-up to that game, we were all just saying we think Fulham are going to get a result, and Fulham played well against Chelsea. João Felix made his debut. This seems a little bit different this time round. Usually I go into these games thinking, Fulham will get a result here. But I think with these signings, it's going to be a big positive for Chelsea, and they're going to really start to kick on this season now, I think. And looking at most of our picks for this game, we seem to all be thinking the same, that Chelsea are definitely going to be getting on the score sheet here, and they're going to be kicking on and playing well here. I mean, Boz, looking at your pick, you've gone for Mason Mount to have a good game in this one.
Yeah, it seems a bit ironic, doesn't it, to pick a Chelsea player that's not cost them nearly what half of these All-Stars have done. But obviously, it's Chelsea through and through. It's really hard looking this far out to try and work out who's in the start for Chelsea. There's a Sky graphic doing the round, so they've got sort of 3 what you'd call top-class players in every position. From my perspective, I thought Mason Mount will probably be a cornerstone of Graham Potter's revival. He evens for a goal or an assist. Fulham, you've got to go back to, I think, the 3rd of January for a league clean sheet, and that was against a very poor Leicester side. Chelsea at home are going to be under pressure to really put on a bit of a show, and I thought that evens for goal or assist would be a nice 90-minute bet for the Friday night football.
I like it. Farley, you've gone for a booking bet in this one, and a little bet builder maybe that you like to look of too.
Yeah, so let's go for the bet first of all. This for me is, I'd say, one of the bets of the weekend. I think it's an absolute beauty. I would have put it as my nap, but I didn't want to put in something that will be over on a Friday night. But this is Kenny Tete, right back for Fulham to get booked. 14 starts in the Premier League, 6 bookings, and now he's up against Mudryk. Almost certainly will be starting on that left wing for Chelsea, and he looked incredible when he came on against Liverpool. With 90 minutes of him versus Kenny Tete, a guy who has form for giving up bookings, I just think 3-1 is far too big. I think already I've only seen Mudryk in England at least for what, like 20, 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
He already gives me the Jack Grealish kind of vibe of not in playing style at all, but just in terms of when he's on the pitch, I want to back the opposite number, the fullback, to get carded, because the guy's just going to get fouled all the time. Quickest player in the Premier League. 3-1's just a big price, and I think it's something we might see the bookies start to like nail down pretty quickly if he gets Tete books early.
Yeah, I mean, part of that reasoning, what you've said there about Mudryk, is why I've gone for him to get a goal or assist at 10-11 in this game. I mean, this goal or assist market is Sam Bos's market, let's be honest, but I'm going to pick Mudryk in this one because that game was an absolute stinker against Liverpool last week, or the week before, sorry, but Mudryk came on and just completely changed the game around and just made it exciting. And yeah, for him to get a goal or assist at 10-11, I know it's a very short price, but it seems like something that will happen in this one. A Mudryk goal is something that forms a small bet builder for you, Farley. Did you mention that just then, or
no? I didn't mention it. Sorry. Yeah. So the bedrock of that bet builder is obviously the Tete card. Adding in a Paulina card, I think he's absolutely brilliant, but he's going to have a tough ask, especially if Fernandes does get any minutes, which we don't know at the moment. So those two to get carded, then a Mudryk goal, and that comes in at 55-1. I think bet builders is the biggest waste of money going. But a well-known, reputable bookmaker offered me a free £5 bet yesterday. So this is what it went on. And to be fair, it's one of the few bet builders. I look at it and it kind of all makes sense to me. Like it inevitably lose. Now I've said that. But yeah, that's my bet.
Yeah, I like it. Shall we move on to I'd say what is probably the best game of the weekend, really, on paper. The Sunday 4:30 game is Spurs against Manchester City. Now, I want you two to kick us off in this one because I feel like I'm going to be overly negative, really, going into this game, as per usual. But Farley, let's have a look at you first of all, because you've gone for a double in terms of goals at 4-1. So you tell us why you think these two players are going to score in this game.
I'm just going to keep this super brief. This is not the best, not really the best kind of wildest bet out there. 4-1. It's a simple double on Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, both to score in this game. Haaland 25 goals on the season in the Premier League. Harry Kane's on 16, I think. Over 40 between them. It's just the most simple bet. To keep something interesting, keep it alive for 90 minutes. These guys won't be coming off the pitch, so that's it for me.
Nice. Boz, I hope your bet comes in for fantasy football reasons and for fan reasons. Why have you gone for KDB to get an assist in this game?
Just fairly standard bet, isn't it, for a game like this? I don't think I'd want to lay odds against, and he's 6-5. I mean, I think you only have to reflect on what happened the last time these two teams met. Individually take KDB out of the equation. The way City managed to absolutely nail Spurs in that second half, I'm quite tempted to go harder on City -1, but I'm going to park that. And I just think KDB will be the man that will unlock this defence. Spurs, to me, are a little bit of a strange side, aren't they? I know they've sort of picked up some results here and there, but I just don't know, like the way that Doherty left the club and they had to release him. Conte obviously being unwell is not anyone's fault, but I don't think it's ideal preparation for this game, is it really? Having sort of just don't feel very organised. And, let's be honest, once City scored that one against them the other day, you kind of knew that they were going to come back and win. There's no chance Pep's going to let them be 2 down in this game. I'm fairly convinced that City win. KDB will be a major part of that. He'll be playing through balls to the likes of Erling Haaland, who's probably the best striker in the world. He'll get an assist at some point. I'm fairly sure 6-5 is good value. I wouldn't want to, if you were saying to me what price would I make him, it'd be odds on.
Yeah, definitely with Haaland up in front of him, 100%. I mean, I'm going to go against both of you now and say there's not going to be many goals in this one. And that's why I'm picking under 2.5 at 6-5 odds. The reason why I'm picking that is because we've never scored at Tottenham's new ground, in 4 years of playing there. We've played there 4 times, Champions League, Premier League twice. One of them Premier League games was coming off the back of a 14-game winning run, still lost. We lose when we're in good form going there. We lose when we're in bad form going there. And we just don't score there. I don't know if it's a mental block, which we've definitely got in this squad. We've got it at Anfield. We may have it at Tottenham's ground too. But under 2.5 goals may even come in with a City win, City 1-0 or 2-0, and go against me saying that we don't score there. I just don't see many goals in this game.
I hate those stats,
I think it's going to be tight.
Jake, I've got to pull you up here. I hate all this stuff, right? Mental block. I don't buy it. Spurs isn't some intimidating. It's a nice ground. It's not some intimidating ground to go to. Your squad, how different would your squad be if you go back through those 4 games from the furthest away to now? It's probably changed massively. And Spurs themselves have changed. I'm guessing a couple of those games were under Mourinho, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's be honest, was a specialist in that. I personally, and listen, I get it, you're a City fan, you know them. I think you've got your fan hat on here a bit. It could be unders, but and I know Spurs can hold their own, but I at 6-5, I'd much rather have a 90-minute bet on KDB assist than be sat on 6-5 under 2.5 goals, and I'd be fretting after a goal goes in the first half.
I'm with Boz here. I think this is a fan. When you worry about going to certain stadiums, I think that's very much a fan way of doing things. Because, I mean, this isn't Galatasaray away. Erling Haaland's not walking in there going, fucking hell, lads, you won't believe it. The Beaver Town pours from the bottom upwards. I'm shit scared. Like, he's not worried about it. Like this, I just don't believe it's a thing. I really don't believe it's a thing. Managers, that can be a thing. But grounds, unless you're talking... unless you're talking somewhere very hostile, I just don't see it being a thing these days.
I just think squads change so much that yes, the spine of the City team's still there, but are you telling me Nathan Ake, who's not been how many players in that City squad had featured in all those games that you mentioned, Jake? Probably 2 or 3 at most.
Yeah,
and Kevin De Bruyne is not going to be bothered about going there, and being we've got a bad record. I think it is one of the most overplayed stats in sport. There you go. That's my hot take on it. That
hopefully it's Sunday, mate. You can both text me saying, "Egg on your face, mate. You've scored." Yeah. Any other Prem for this weekend? Any other bets that you like for this weekend?
I think we should start with Boz's here, because me and you, Jake, we've gone for the same game, probably for very similar reasons. So why don't you tell us about your tip, Boz, for the 5:30 game on Saturday, which is Newcastle at home to West Ham?
Quite simply, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before last, I sat through the West Ham v Everton game when I was abroad, so I watched the full 90 minutes. Good Lord, it was dreadful. Yes, West Ham got the win under Super David Moyes. He's not that super. This West Ham side is definitely not that super. They go away to a Newcastle side who are buoyant off the back of ending up in their first cup final for about 200 years. They're at home, Newcastle. Their fans are absolutely loving life at the moment. I was a little bit surprised they let John Joe Shelby go in the window. I thought they might want to keep him for a bit of squad depth, but especially when you think Bruno's going to be suspended for this game, I'm correct in thinking?
I think he is, yeah. I think he's going
for domestic. With all that said, Newcastle have overwhelming quality. I don't believe West Ham have got that much squad depth. I think the European would worry me. I actually thought I might have got Moyes out ahead of Lampard, but obviously didn't get the result. Like I say, I tell you what, when we come to your bets, I'm going to offer a rebuttal on what you've gone for. But yeah, for me, Newcastle to win 8-13, it'll be in every single ACCA this week.
Well, you mentioned Lampard being the first manager out of those to leave his post, which brings us nicely on to Everton, now of Sean Dyche managerialship. Is that even a word? I don't think it is. Jake, why don't you tell us through your sort of bet for this one?
Yeah, so in this one, as Boz looks very concerned about me tipping this, but I've gone for Everton or draw at home to Arsenal on Saturday. And again, it is mainly due to the Sean Dyche factor. He's going to come in, and I've seen pictures from training at the start of the week where players have got their hands on their knees, blowing. He's come in and he's given it to them straight away. He's got them running in training. And I mean,
do you think they weren't running in training under Lampard? This is such.
I've had this discussion actually in the past couple of days, and listen, Lampard's known as one of the best trainers there's been. I mean, any conversation I've seen, any interview I've seen with people from Lampard's days, best trainers always Frank Lampard. So he's going to have trained his team well. But in so many of those games this season under Lampard, Everton's running it's not been good enough. I mean, you said you watched that West Ham game last week. I may have watched that West Ham game too and seen that it was a case of West Ham running all over them. Everton had chances. Everton hit the post twice, actually. But any team who's looked to put any effort in over Everton has beat them. And I think that's going to change completely. I think Dyche is going to get into them and make sure that they're putting in effort. I mean, it's not good at all that they've not made any transfers on deadline day. That's an absolute disgrace in my eyes. But at home to Arsenal, lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday, where we always say avoid betting on the favourites on a lunchtime kickoff. But Everton or draw 9-5 just looks like a price where I like it, I like it.
I'm going to echo that. I'll talk about my bet in a second. Everton aren't going down this year, and that's a fact. Sean Dyche is I've no doubt about it. Look, Lampard, I think Lampard was a fairly good motivator. He showed that during the end of last season. I think even the start of this season, I think they look quite good at times. The problem is he's just not a tactician whatsoever. We've seen that in 3 different spells now with different teams. Derby wasn't really a tactician, certainly wasn't at Chelsea, wasn't at Everton. Sean Dyche knows tactics. this team are going to be hard to beat. They're not going to be fun to watch. You're not going to be tuning into an Everton game expecting to see great football. It's not going to happen. But you are going to see a team that are tough to beat, tough as nails. They will work hard. What he turned that Burnley unit into was pretty extraordinary, given how pretty poor most of their players were. And now he's got this team. And the one thing I think you can say about Everton is defensively, the likes of Cody, Tarkowski, obviously a former Dyche player. These are relatively good defenders. I think we're going to see, it might not be this week, but in a couple of weeks' time, I think they are going to be very tough to beat. And I think they're going to finish, they're not even going to be out of the relegation zone. I think Everton will be in the top 14. They'll be in the top.
Right. Okay. Can I just pause you both here? Right.
Let me just say one thing, Boz. One thing. I'm just going to quickly say my bet now. First half handicap, Everton +1 at 22-25. I think this has 0-0 at half time written all over it.
Well, I can only assume that Jake's wearing the hat because he's had a lobotomy and his brain's been removed. Because I can't understand his bet. Farley, I think there's a wee bit more logic to yours, and I'll give you a slight bit more credit. I can see Dyche trying to make sure they get through to half time at 0-0. Completely get that, I guess. Do I think it's value? Probably not. Guys, have you forgotten that they're playing Arsenal? They're not. If they were playing like, I don't know, a Leicester or a Palace or a Brighton, I could understand perhaps why there's this optimism around. Sean Dyche is having to play with the exact same deck of cards that Frank Lampard had. Now, I know we'll always say, but new manager bounce, blah, blah, blah. I 100% get that. Anthony Gordon has not been necessarily a feature this season in terms of how good he was. They have weakened their squad. Put these two squads next to each other, right? From when Lampard was this time last year to now. They're in a worse position. They don't have Richarlison, a real talismanic who is dragging this team to a result. I'll be honest, the only player I've seen in the last couple of games for them that's looked half like he could pull something out of the bag for him was Iwobi, who isn't that consistent. I think you're mad. Like, Sean Dyche has gone there because he obviously believes he can turn it round. I know we aren't as far through the season as we'd normally be because of the World Cup, and that is something I've perhaps forgotten. But for me, the biggest error they made, I think Sean Dyche, brilliant appointment. And I do think if of all the managers out there, I know Bielsa was mentioned. I definitely think Dyche was the more sensible approach. For me, the board let the fans down. They haven't given the manager the read. If they go down, it's not Sean Dyche's fault. It'll be the fact that they've not. The 40 million, like, they're the only club that haven't spent a penny in the Premier League this window. And yet, ironically, they're probably the one that needed to spend it most. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if he can stay fit for more than 3 games in a row, I'll be astounded. And it'll be a good result for Everton fans. I just don't see. Yes, he can tighten them up at the back and nick some 0-0s, but how is he going to get the results they need to stay up? For me, Everton are in real trouble. I think you're both mental. And
all I'm going to say is I'm going to take you back to the last day of 2022. Everton travelling all the way to the Etihad. Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish. It was 1-1. Everton were fantastic that day. Real fantastic rearguard action. I think when you look at their players, like Richarlison in the summer, that can't be overstated because I think he's a genuinely incredible player. Onana's a really good player. Like the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal kind of linked to him even this window, I think proves that. It won't be a good player. I think he's injured at the moment, isn't he? But defensively, Cody, Tarkowski, Godfrey, I think they're good. Pickford
who's scoring the goals, Farley? You can't stay up with 12 0-0 draws.
I think you can. I think 12 0-0 draws, they would stay up.
I haven't got the table in front of me, but they're going to need more than 12 0-0 draws.
But they will win games. I think they're going to stay up. I really do. I'm very confident on it.
Sorry, have you? We must move on, but you do realise they're playing Arsenal this weekend, lad. Arsenal.
They drew with Man City. They drew with Man City.
I don't. Brentford drew with Man City. It's a one-off result. On the face of things, Everton should get battered here. No.
Yeah, they should.
They should.
But I wouldn't be betting.
There we go.
Football, though. Football. let's move away from the Premier League.
Had a week and anyway,
I'll tell you
we'll
what,
leave this because this time next week.
Speaking of coupon busters, that this game could well be, because you never bet on the early kickoff. That's going to take us into our new segment. Rather than banker bust or draw, we're going to just talk about coupon busters and talk about, because we all love to do a 3:00 game, and every single week there's always a game that you think you can't lose, and it does lose, and it ruins your ACCA. So we're basically going to go through what we think are our kind of coupon busters for your ACCAs. So hopefully you can avoid them and avoid falling into the same traps that we all do every now and again. And I noticed me and Boz have got. What, Boz? Why don't you go through, because we've got the same one here.
Well, no, I'd left that one for you because you got there first. So you'd be pleased now I won't trample over it. But I will just mention that Liverpool, I think, are favourites to beat Wolverhampton Wanderers away. Am I going completely bananas and thinking that that's like they're odds on? Like, has anyone been watching this Liverpool team that compiles odds? Like, Wolves have got a new manager in who seems to know what he's doing, has got a bit of cohesion. Liverpool have looked, I mean, genuinely, that game against Brighton, they looked awful. Then they've obviously gone out the FA Cup to them. They looked a marginally bit better that game. But, like, this is a side that went 1-0 up and have lost 2-1. Like, they're not the Liverpool. They're being priced on reputation, I think, guys.
I agree. I think Liverpool are one of those teams you've got to avoid quite often this season. The price is never quite stacking up with the reality. And that kind of brings me on to Brighton, who are 4-11. So nearly 1-3 on to beat Bournemouth. So admittedly, Brighton been brilliant this year. Bournemouth have not been brilliant. Brighton are the home team. We've seen them play very well recently. The likes of Mitoma looks an absolute world-class sort of signing potentially. There's so much to love about this Brighton team. But I'm sorry, maybe this is still partly a hang-up at their little old Brighton, not like, a big name. But at 4-11, if I'm putting on a bet like that, I want it to be a team that are steamroller in the league. I want it to be a Man City, an Arsenal at that sort of price. A team like Brighton, who've only won 3 of their last 5, they are a good team, but the likes of Moises Caicedo, what's going to be going on with him after his sort of failed move? I don't know. There's a lot about this team that I love, but from a betting point of view, at 4-11, I think you'd be absolutely bonkers to go anywhere near it.
100% agree, Sam. They were my original pick. I really respect Brighton, but they just... I don't think Bournemouth are great either, but at some stage, Bournemouth are going to have to... Bournemouth, one thing I will give them credit for, the board seems to have gone out and spent a bit of money, so perhaps there's a bit more encouragement there, and we'll see. But yeah, 1-3 Brighton, no thank you. Can well and truly leave that alone.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Sam, this is the coupon buster segment for the reason why, like you say, 3:00 kickoffs, we go and look for our ACCAs and we see a price that looks a bit tasty on the day, but it's like, is that price too short? Is there a reason for that price? My coupon buster this week is Chef Wednesday at home to Sam Farley's Plymouth, and their odds to win at the moment are 7-10. You're getting Plymouth at around 4-1 to win that game. And basically my reasoning for this is Plymouth are top of the league, Plymouth are flying. I really just can't bet against Plymouth at 7-10. I think Chef Wednesday should be evens, a touch over evens for this game, where it'd be a lot tastier to put them in my ACCA. But I think at the odds of 7-10, they're too short and they are a potential coupon buster for this week. Plymouth's time off last week. Plymouth didn't play last weekend because of the FA Cup games. That will help them massively because I'm not sure about you, Farley, but from what I've read, from what I've seen in highlights packages towards the end of games in those last 3 or 4 weeks, Plymouth have looked leggy. The reason why it was the Bolton game, I think I saw highlights from that draw. Yeah. And a lot of them Bolton chances came from Plymouth looking fairly leggy, let's be honest. And again, that week off may help. And Chef Wednesday drawing at home in the Cup to Fleetwood last weekend, that also falls into it with the replay coming up this midweek. They may potentially have an eye on that if they don't want to bin the Cup off. So yeah, I just think 7-10 is too short for Sheff Wednesday in this game, to be honest. Sheff Wednesday might win this one. They've got good form at home. They've won 9, only lost 1. But again, 7-10 is just too short for me.
Yeah, I agree. Sheffield Wednesday, for me, they are, I hate to say it, the best team in the division. But 7-10, you want a sure thing. And it's just not a sure thing. Argyle have had more time to kind of rest up, recuperate, and sort of really focus on a game plan for this match. Plus, I think the game's entirely sold out. I think we're taking just under 4,000, so it's going to be loud. The support's going to be fantastic for a game of that level, and I think the team are going to have everything behind them. And I just don't think you can make that bet. I just don't think it's a particularly smart bet to make. I wouldn't bet on Argyle either. I just wouldn't go near this game whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Shall we take a trip abroad now?
Oh, yes, please.
Let's go up. Well, foreign footy. I say let's take a trip abroad, but I'm looking at Farley's pick for foreign footy this week, and we're going up to Scotland.
Oh, I mean, this is disappointing. Don't even need the passport, lads.
Yeah, look, lads.
The passport, mate.
First and foremost, there's a cost of living crisis, so I can't afford a flashy flight out to Italy like Jake is going to have after this. So instead, I'm going to get a little mega bus up to Scotland to watch a game in the lower leagues up there, Stenhousemuir versus Dumbarton. And basically, I think I talked before about websites that are really useful from a bettor's perspective. Adam Choi, his website is brilliant. I go on it all the time. And this is one that kind of, just through scouring that, I just thought just looks like a really good price at 4-6. Stenhousemuir have had, in 21 games this season, 18 of them have had both teams scoring. They're good going forward. They're bad at the back. They're one of those kind of teams. And I just think, looking at this, it's two teams that should score ultimately and aren't particularly great defensively, so should concede. So yeah, Stenhousemuir versus Dumbarton, both teams to score at 4-6. That's one to stick in your hackers, I'd say.
Jake, please, for goodness sake, take us somewhere exotic.
Well, I'm going to take you to Italy, lads. And on the face of it, this is going to be a bet which is probably quite dumb, let's be honest, right? Because Cremonese haven't won at all in Serie A this season. They've not won. They've not won a single game in the league. I can see Farley laughing about this.
So this is where it gets good, Jake. So you're tipping them to win?
I'm tipping them to win their first game this weekend. They're at home to Lecce, 13-8. And I've got a little bit of reasoning why I've got them to win. Now, like I said, they've not won at all in the league this season. Wednesday night, they beat Roma in Coppa Italia to go through to the semi-finals of that competition. Beating Roma away is no mean feat. I mean, Farley tipped them to win the league at the start of the season. So Roma are a team that decent under Mourinho. They've also beat Napoli away in the Coppa Italia this season too, which again is absolutely mental on the face of things when they've not won a game at all in the league this season. They're at home to Lecce, who've not won the last 4 games. The reverse fixture between the two was a 1-1 draw. So one of the 8 points that they've got this season came in that game. I mean, 8 points in a season where you've not won once is a bit mental too, to be honest. But yeah, 13-8 is just a very good price in a game where they'll go into it with a lot of confidence after beating Roma. And I just think that this is the game where they get a win this season. I know it's a mental bet, but it's one of them that can happen.
A nice little double with Everton, perhaps.
Oh,
really?
Yes.
I feel like you two last week made an agreement to troll me when I came back. Abuse about my jacket, picking these absolutely rotten bets. Must be opposite today. Right, come on, Farley. We're relying on you with the EFL because you're the only one that's a selection here. And you're going for Swindon, who have ended up with Jody Morris as their new manager, I believe.
Yes, they have. So Swindon are one of those teams I pay a bit of attention to because a couple of my good friends are Swindon fans, and I just love abusing their downfall. And they are so excited about the team at the moment because they've got a few recruits in, they've got Jody Morris in. Everything's kind of looking up for them. They played Gillingham last week, which we'll kind of talk about that in a bit. Really, really kind of tough game there. They didn't win, but apparently played really, really well according to my Swindon fan friends. They absolutely loved it. And now they play a Newport team who are down in 19th. They haven't won in absolutely God knows how long. I think in the last 5 games, they've only picked up 1 point. This isn't a good Newport team. And no matter if Swindon are on the road, I think you're getting just under 2-1 on a team who things are starting, dare I say, maybe not to come together, but they're certainly on an upward trajectory. And I think at that price, this is one of those bets that, you chuck it in an ACCA, you could really kind of maybe boost your odds quite significantly, or just do it as a single, which I will also do.
Yeah, I like it. And the other thing to say is, I think it's mental how Charlie Austin's playing for Swindon. It's absolutely crazy. Have you seen him in that league? I saw highlights of their games the last couple of weeks where he scored, and he just looks, it's like men against boys. It's crazy. I love it.
I mean, he's scored 3 goals in 2 games now since he came back to his boyhood club, I believe. So like they got a guy who scores goals, which I think when you're at that level, having just a guy you can rely on to find the back of the net sort of every other game, if not better, that's half the battle. So I think Swindon, I hate to say it, in a good place. I think at that price, it's a must bet this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Right, let's get away from football now. Let's completely forget about the football for the time being and switch on to racing. And the Dublin Racing Festival is on the way this weekend. Sam Boswell, I believe you will be there in Dublin, hopefully not having too many Guinnesses, but focusing on the racing for us this week.
Yeah, I'll be working hard and then playing even harder, hopefully, on Saturday and Sunday evening. It is a fantastic event. If you go racing sort of occasionally in the UK, this is the Irish meeting to get to. It's cheap. It's easy to get to. Still book a flight today for like less than £100, I think, if you shop around. It is class. It's really good fun. €50, I think, will buy you both days access. Brilliant meeting. Let's come to the actual nuts and bolts of it. It's going to be the Willie Mullins show. It's a case of how many winners he has, not which winners he has, kind of thing. In terms of bets, it's quite hard to find value in some of the races because naturally we've got some very short prices that I think are just going to go and win. So rather than try and be clever and take them on, sometimes you have to say, well done. There is a horse that I've mentioned before that I think I've put up on here, anti-post. It's a horse called Croisy de Paris, who is in the colours of Rich Ritchie. He's had loads of really good horses, the likes of Faheen, Annie Power, etc. With Willie Mullins once again here. Paul Townend had the pick of a few in here. And I should say 2 in here, and he's opted to ride him over stablemate Grange Clear West. He's a 13-2 shot. He won in workmanlike style on New Year's Day in ground that he would have hated over probably a trip too short. Goes up to 2 miles 6 today. Interestingly, this race is a £50,000 bonus for stable staff race. So if the horse wins here at Leopardstown and then goes to the festival and wins, stable staff get a share of 50 grand between them, which is a really nice initiative. Fair play to the sponsors who put that up. But yeah, 13-2 is a massive each way price for me. He'll relish the step up in trip. Don't think there's any horse in here that you'd be too afraid of. American Mike's on a bit of a comeback mission for Gordon Elliott. I suppose he'd be the one I'd probably be siding with. Goodland is your favourite for Barry O'Connell. I understand why, but I just think there's a bit more to come from this very unexposed 5-year-old who we haven't seen too much of. But a good little race to kick us off. Other stuff to mention just on the Saturday as well. You've got the Spring Juvenile. You'll see the Triumph favourite, Lottie Mouth, who's 4-11, 1-2 on, more or less, to win the Spring Juvenile. That should go in if you want one for an ACCA. The Irish Arkle looks like the most interesting race of the day for me, with Willie Mullins running 5 in the race, I should say, of the 8. Just shows his dominance. But yeah, really good weekend of racing. Probably your last chance now, the next 2 weeks, to get those Cheltenham Festival clues in before more or less everything's done and dusted till we get to March. So do have a little watch if you can. The action's on ITV on the Sunday. You'll have to watch it on a bookmaker's site on the Saturday, or Racing TV if you're lucky enough to have it.
Does that mean we might have some Cheltenham anti-post bets next week, do you think?
To be honest, most bookies are now non-runner, no bet. I actually think this season's been proven the hardest to find any value. I actually think my personal perspective is, I know I promised quite a few anti-post bets. It's getting harder and harder to find what I would call value. And I know on the day, you're going to get extra places. You're going to get money back if this happens.
Yeah.
You're going to get concessions. You know your horse is there. I actually think the worms turned a little bit. I love trying to have a go anti-post, and I've had a few darts, but Edwardstone remains our kind of strongest chance of a winner. I don't know if you guys saw last weekend. He was just pipped on the line by Editor Digi. He got the better, though, of the horse that we thought he was going to win. So like I say, I think we'll need to wait and see what happens. But for me, Edwardstone's probably the best live chance I've got of a decent price winner. We put him up on here at 16s. So fingers crossed. Alan King thinks he'll be even fitter come March. I am still he's about 5-2 now, so I'm fairly confident we've got the value at least there. But it's been tough this year.
Yeah, Cheltenham's always exciting though. Farley, are you going to Cheltenham this year?
Yeah, I'll be there Tuesday and Thursday this year.
Jealous of the pair of you.
Are we having our annual meet up, Jake? Are you coming down on the Thursday?
No Cheltenham for me this year, lads. Sad times. First time.
Make sure you get there. Anyone watching this has never been. It's still in my top 5 sporting events ever that I've been to, and it always will be.
I agree. And we'll have a full Cheltenham preview probably in the week before, to be honest, as we'll have hopefully a preview of the Super Bowl next week. Now, no Super Bowl tips early on for you, Farley, but another form of egg chasing and egg throwing in my eyes, because I'm not a massive rugby fan either. Six Nations, mate. That returns this week, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's the Six Nations kicks off on Saturday. Perfect time to get down the pub, get your brown shoes on, get your jeans on, have a pint of Guinness, talk about mortgage rates, and just enjoy the rugby. So look, there's 3 games on, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday. I thought it'd be wrong for this event to come back without kind of just trying to run through a couple of bets. So just got a simple ACCA. It's only even money, so this is not a big ACCA at all. It's you'll see why in a second. We'll go through all 3 legs. First and foremost, Ireland to beat Wales. Second, that's the first game on the Saturday. Second, France to beat Italy on the Sunday. But basically, France and Ireland, best 2 teams in the world. Not really any question about that. And although, Italy are steadily improving and Wales do have Warren Gatland back as coach. So, you never know. But ultimately, Ireland and France will be too good regardless, which means the other leg is England versus Scotland, and we'll be taking England. The game is at Twickenham. England haven't been particularly good against Scotland in recent years, but this is the first game of the Steve Borthwick era. Obviously, Eddie Jones was sacked, and I just don't believe England are going to lose this game. I think there's just too much about this squad, how important this is. New kind of manager, new man in charge. They have to win it. And ultimately, the players are good enough. They always have been good enough. We're going to see, a lot of rugby's best players are going to be on the England team. So, for me, Ireland, England, France, incredibly boring little treble to go for, even money. But probably one that's going to land, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, interestingly, guys, working in the betting industry, we all know this. Rugby betting doesn't seem nearly as big as it should be. Any reason why we think that is?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I don't think it overly fits like British betting patterns either, because I know a lot of rugby fans who bet quite a lot and they don't bet on rugby. Simply put, ultimately the kind of 1x2 win market, the odds are just too one-sided to kind of really work. And then the other kind of markets that you see a bit of are handicaps, which is basically the spread bet that you'd see in NBA or NFL, and the points total over under. And again, those 2 markets are very much like what you see in American sports so often, but you just don't really see British punters using those so much. I think the betting companies could maybe do a slightly better job of advertising markets such as like anytime try scorers or first try scorers. They don't really do enough of that. I'd say, well, actually, I'm not going to say the bookie name. There's an Irish bookie that does a fairly good job of that, but I'd say none of the others really highlight those kind of promos to the level they should. But yeah, that's it for me. I think it isn't a sport that really translates that well to betting, in my view.
No, I don't think it translates that well in terms of fanship and viewership too. I feel like It seems like there's a bit of a class divide when it comes to rugby in terms of rugby union and then rugby league. I mean, up north, everything's also around rugby league up here, and rugby league betting's pretty similar in terms of the win market, where a lot of it's like favoritism and there'll be a team that's heavy odds on. So I think that falls into it a little bit too in terms of the Six Nations, where there's not a lot of people that will have much of an interest in it, I think, up north.
Fair enough. Jake, have you got anything for us? Are we taking a trip to South Africa for Love Island, or what's going on with you? Anything you want to put up?
I'm going to be speaking a little bit of gibberish to you boys this week, like normal, let's be honest. But I've got a little bit of an esports pick for you guys this week. So I'm traveling over to America this weekend and to Boston, of all places, where the Call of Duty League Major 2 takes place. Starts actually Thursday evening, but it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with the final of the event on Sunday. And I'm tipping the 4th favourite in this to win the event, which is Optic Texas at 11-2. And they go into the event off the back of perfect qualifying, the number 1 seed going into it after 3 games of the event, 3 wins of the event too. Their best player actually retired just 2 weeks ago, so they go into it with a fresh team, a fresh player going into it, and a lot to prove really, with Scump, who retired, being arguably the best player of all time on the game and the face of the league.
Sorry, Jake. Yes. Why do you retire from esports? Do your fingers get a little tired? Is
mixture of your fingers might be a bit too tired. I mean, he started professionally when he was 13 and he's now 27. So there's been 14 years that he's been playing that game for. And the main reason for him retiring is to go more into the content side of things, where he'll get more money, basically. That's why he's retired. So the money that he's earning for competing competitively is nowhere near the amount that he'll earn being as a solo player, streaming and doing what at the minute he's doing watch-alongs for these events where he sits there and watches the games rather than plays them, and he's earning like tens and tens of thousands. I think they worked out what he earned in his first stream in 4 hours for sitting there watching the game. Off subscribers alone was $50,000. So the money you can make off it is absolutely crazy, and he'll be making millions and millions in the next 3 or 4 years, I'd say, because again, he's the face of the whole industry when it comes to Call of Duty competitively. But yeah, his former team, Optic Texas, they're the 4 favourites in the betting. But like I said, they're going into this one with a 100% record. They beat FaZe last week in a crazy game where they weren't expected to win, and they won. And again, at 11-2, it's something that I've stuck a $5 on myself, and it's a good price. And it's just a good event to, when you've had a bet on. I know we say it's fun when you had a bet on to bet on the football and follow it like that, and it's similar with this. You're following a team and you can follow the games, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's my pick for this one. Optic Texas 11-2 for Major 2, which again starts Thursday evening going through to Sunday.
I don't want to sound mocking of it because I don't enjoy it, because it amazes me how big a market esports is now. Whether we like it or not, genuinely, probably one of the biggest futures of betting. I think you've either got to learn to live with it, or you'll be an absolute dinosaur. Sam Farley's already puzzling because we asked some Twitter questions, and I actually got one in. I hope Sam's already thinking about this question. So I got a DM. Don't be shy, by the way. You can reply on the Twitter thread. I was a bit confused why I got the DM, but it's absolutely fine. You can do it that way as long as they're clean, which this one was. Which is, can you give us your best near miss betting story? Which is very topical because this week I think I shared with you guys one that looks like it's going to just narrowly miss at a massive price. But while you're having a think, I'll just share with the listeners what it was. So whenever my account is down to sort of an odd number, I'll throw a very small amount of change at some sort of silly cross-sport ACCA, usually outrights and events. So this one in particular was Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year. They were 10-1. Argentina to win the World Cup. They were 8-1, I think, at the time. Had Rory McIlroy to win the Open and Michael van Gerwen to win a darts event at 5-1. Anyway, since that bet was placed, Michael van Gerwen won his darts event. Argentina won the World Cup. Rory McIlroy finished 2 shots off the lead and placed in the Open. At one stage, he was leading and probably traded at a fairly short price. And Kansas City are in the final of the Super Bowl, which takes place next Sunday. Had Rory got the win, I'd have been sat there looking at Kansas City Chiefs to win a coin toss of a game for £13,000 off £2 each way. So yeah, that's my best betting near miss story. I kind of want the Eagles to win. I've got the place part up, which is lovely because it's like 160 quid. But yeah, 13 grand off that would have been nice. So there's my kind of betting. It's not even a bad beat story. It wasn't like I was hard done by, but I think the near miss stories are better than the blowing your trumpet about how clever you are.
Yeah, I'll jump in with something at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where this has made me become less of a muggy punter now and less of these muggy £10 specials, where a certain bookmaker was doing the standard £10 price boost of a team to have a shot on target in the first 10 minutes, evens from 1 to 10. I thought, yes, I'll put a tenner on this and I can pay for my Saturday Accas with this early kickoff. The team had a shot on target at 10 minutes and 2 seconds. Bet failed. Bet didn't come in, and that fully turned me off all these like shot on target boosts and things like that, where I just avoid them completely now, because again, they are just them bets where more often than not I see them not come in. I see like Harry Kane to have a shot on target and then he'll just have a dud.
Harry Kane is the one that seems to always have some sort of Sky Bet 365 juju placed on him, and people I do love at that point where you see people on social media giving it he's been paid off by the bookies to not have a shot on target. I mean, of course.
When they're posting videos of a shot that he's had that's like gone nowhere near the goal, and like the keeper's touched it, the keeper's saved it. It's like, oh, for God's sake! But I know that's probably not what you were looking for in the DMs.
No, it's a good. I do like stories like that. I think we've all had those, haven't we? Where surely this can't not miss. I mean, yeah, you could argue. I know there was a few people, myself included, that got involved in the first player to be booked market at the Euros when there were suggestions that Harry Kane was going to wear the rainbow armband and people were backing him to get booked. And I went and trebled him up with all the captains of teams that were going to do it. And
then very hopeful that day.
Everything went mad. Yeah. But Farley, what about yourself? Any bad bet stories or close misses that you want to share that are a bit painful?
So I'm trying to think what year this was. I can only think of one. And I think it might have been 2020. I don't know. So, and you're related to this actually, Boz, because you were the one who gave me this tip.
Oh no!
A few years ago, it was a really good tip. I think it must have been 2020. Cheltenham. I think it was the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Chacun pour soi. 50-1. You told me months before the event, like the year before.
No, I can tell you when I told you it was something like 13 months beforehand, because it was on the morning he was going to run at Punchestown that we backed him, and he ran in the Punchestown equivalent of the Champion Chase, and he was a massive price. And I said, if he wins this next year, he'll be a really short price for the Champion Chase. And lo and behold, keep talking.
Yeah. So, yeah, really good race. We got on at 50s. The price dropped. And it was basically, it got to the point maybe 3 weeks before, it was basically a heads up. Altior versus Chacun pour soi. Altior's my favourite ever horse. Chacun pour soi had this 50-1 slip. So I was thinking, look, hopefully go and win a big load of cash, or I see my favourite horse win. So there's like, either way, something's going to be good. And then Altior pulled out. So we're like, everyone's just thinking, it's easy cash. I go to bed the night before already thinking about these thousands of pounds and what they were going to do for me. And then I wake up that morning and he's pulled out. And
the morning of the race.
A couple of hours before. And I genuinely, I remember I was my old company, an odds comparison site. I was in the office, absolutely devastated. I just sort of sat at my desk, just head in hands, just.
I mean, for clarity, for the audience watching that might not be into horse racing, this is basically like having probably like 50-1 on Messi to score a goal when the opposition are fairly awful, and then you've sat and waited, and he pulls out in the warm-up. Effectively, it was the morning of the race. I'd seen him on the gallops at Cheltenham, and he'd been fine earlier in the week. So, yes, good story, Sam. Right, we better wrap it up with best bets because we've taken a while to get there, but I thought people would enjoy those tales of woe. Come on then, best bets for the weekend. I'll go first. So I've mentioned obviously the racing. I really like the look of El Fabino to place at 11-10. He's 13-2 to win the race, so he'll be around 11-10 when the place markets come out. I think he's got an excellent opportunity to get round here and be involved in the mix. I'm not sure if he's going to be strong enough to win, but I definitely think he'll be in the 1, 2, 3. So that gives us an odds against opening leg for the bet. Jake, what do you like here?
I like Nottingham Forest to beat Leeds, a Sunday 1:30 fixture, or 2:00 fixture it is now. Leeds have only won once away from home all year, won 1, drawn 2, lost 6. Forest, I know obviously they lost to Man United in the cup midweek, but in the league, their form has turned around and they look like a good team. I think the signing, obviously, of Keylor Navas is going to boost them massively. Whether or not he starts on Sunday is uncertain, but 13-8 is just a big price for a team like Forest to have good home form against Leeds in the past two. And again, I think Forest are starting to actually play football against the Leeds side, who, under Jesse Marsh, it's just an absolute roller coaster. 1 week they'll win, they'll lose, they'll win, they'll lose, they'll win, and there's no consistency. But yeah, 13-8, great price. And the total odds for a bet looks a good price because, Farley, you're going to slip in your pick now, which again is a good price. We're all odds against this week. You muted Farley. No. He's muted. Amateur hour. Oh.
It's early COVID Teams calls days at this rate, Farley. Jeez.
So yeah, look, go through this super quickly. Gillingham at home to Crawley. I think Gillingham are going to win. Good price at 21-20 as well. Crawley have only won one of their last 5. Admittedly, that was the weekend just gone. But this is a Gillingham team who really kind of look like they're on the kind of upward curve. They've won 2 of their last 3, drew the other one most recently, which was to Swindon. They've got a new American investor there who's, really does appear to be changing the culture and the team. I think earlier on in the season, if you remember, we were backing them to do unders nearly every single game because it always came in. Now they seem to be free scoring, just doing a lot better. And I think that Crawley are a club that are in serious trouble. They've got bitten by the new crypto ownership.
Oh, he's an absolute moron, isn't he, Farley?
It really is. I think they're in so much trouble. I mean, I hope they stay in the Football League, but I wouldn't be putting my money on it. So yeah, Gillingham, I'll whack them in here at 21-20. I think it's a nice little boost.
Fantastic. Right. Big thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell your mates about the content. We appreciate it. We only do this for fun, really, but it's quite nice to see the old audience numbers tick upwards. Fingers crossed we found you a bet or two for the weekend. As ever, do gamble responsibly. But from Jake, Sam, and myself, have a good one.
See you later, guys.